photographed, audio, or video recorded without written consent. And that was a mouthful. Good morning. On behalf of the Department of Veterans Affairs, Northern California Healthcare System, the City of Rancho Cordova, Alpha Graphics Rancho Cordova, Republic Services, and the Cordova Community Council, I welcome all of you to the 12th Annual Veterans Day Ceremony. Our theme this year is honoring all who served from the Aragon World War I to Afghanistan and remembering 100 years of veterans past and present who have served this nation proudly. I would like to thank the Rancho Cordova River City Concert Band under the direction of Tom Seaton. They're great every year. And now something we do every year, everybody get up, shake hands with your neighbor, introduce yourself, and we'll get started. This goes for the band too. Please remain standing. Woo. For presentation of the colors, post colors.
Ready, hold, face, and colors.
The audience will sing a national anthem. Give yourself a big hand. It was great. Now I'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by the Honorable David Sanders.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order,
Thank
colors.
you, David.
Counter cards, march. Ready, hold. Hit our colors. Most colors.
Did exactly.
Great set. Mark. Order. Mark. Left, face. Forward, march.
Let's give them a big hand. They did a great job. They are under the direction of Master Sergeant Phil McGreevy, and they're the Rancho Cordova High Junior ROCT. Everybody have a seat. The invocation by Reverend Father Chuck Kelly, St. John Vianney's Parish. Father?
Almighty God, you are our creator and sustainer. You are our light and our fortress. You are our wisdom and our strength. Lord, you moved upon men to establish this great nation. You stirred them to hope and to dream for a land of freedom. We praise you for this great nation. Lord, you have inspired many of our best and brightest to volunteer to proudly stand and defend our beloved country. You have given us brave and loyal men and women who have steadfastly served in their chosen branch of our military. We gather today to remember our military personnel. We acknowledge that their service enables us to walk as free men and women in our land. Lord, today we seek to honor your sons and daughters who have served or who are serving our country. We are reminded that because of their service, we can live in safety. Continue to bless our country and all nations of the world with your peace. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Father. In case you're wondering, we have the American flag on my left and the state flag on my right. Well, they got the book out this morning, and this is the correct way. I guess we've been doing it wrong for 12 years, but I think next year we're going to go back the other way again. But anyway, that was a real to-do this morning. Okay. Okay, Larry, you're up.
Written by George M. Cohan in April 1917, Americans believed at that time that World War I would be short, and the song reflected that expectation. It was popular with United States soldiers in both world wars and was a song designed to galvanize American young men to enlist in the Army. Here is Randy Navarre's arrangement of Over There.
apologize too if something came over there that shouldn't have, but it's one of those things that happens. Anyway, I wasn't in World War I, in case anybody wants to know. I've been accused of it, but you know. Now we're going to have Dr. David Stockwell, Director of VA California, Northern California Healthcare System.
Thank you, Bob.
How do you want?
Well, good morning. Welcome to the VA, where every day is Veterans Day. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and most importantly, those veterans that are with us today, we welcome you. Today is a day that we pause to honor more than 20 million living veterans who've answered our nation's call. For more than 241 years of independence, patriots like them have stood watch over our country. From Aragon to Afghanistan, today's theme, their sacrifices have given us the security and the freedom which grow and flourish as a nation. This month, the President has declared November as Veterans Month, not just Veterans Day. So we're going to commemorate America's heroes and remember their sacrifices for them, their families have made. Countless ceremonies like this, not only today, but every day during November, this nation is going to honor America's veterans. The U.S. Army tells us the story about Moose Aragon, the campaign, which lasted 47 gruesome days in France during the First World War. In it, the U.S. Army suffered more than 117,000 were killed. More than 1.2 million American soldiers participated during those 47 days. We honor them because on November 11th, at the 11th hour of the 11th month, in 1918, it was then that the guns ceased at the end of World War I. America's doughboys started coming home and began to support our returning veterans. But as so often the case, the following years of restless peace did not last. The long shadows of fascism and Nazism soon fell across much of the world. 16 million American men and women stepped forward to fight tyranny and serve in World War II. Now, Bob, I know you weren't in World War I, but you were in World War II, and we honor and we thank you for that today. They answered our country's greatest challenge and led us to victory, setting the stage for the United States' rise as the unprecedented, unsurpassed leader of the free world, the greatest democracy in history, and the most powerful economic engine the world has ever seen. Brave Americans kept serving when their country asked, and when it didn't ask, in war, in peace, at home and abroad. From the frozen ground in Korea, the sweltering jungles of Vietnam, during peacetime around the world, and in the arid deserts of Iraq, they answered the call. Today, in the rugged mountains of Afghanistan, 11,000 troops are on Afghan soil as the war continues there in its 16th year. We think of the men and women who tonight stand guard in faraway places like Kandahar. Every day, they put their uniforms on and lay their lives on the line. More than 2,000 have been killed to date to allow us to continue the blessings of freedom that we enjoy. So today, we honor those 20 million veterans that have put on that uniform, that have put their lives in harm's way. Today is a day that we remember, honor, and celebrate them. There's no greater, that's right, let's give a round of applause. I love to see the flag waving in the back as well, just a way of honoring those veterans. There's no greater or noble mission in the federal government than the mission of the VA. We help mend the body and spirit of those veterans who survive the battles. We assist families as they go on after the loss of their loved ones. We see that a veteran's life ends with dignity of an honorable burial in a national shrine. Every day is Veterans Day at the VA, as it is our honor to help the nation repay its debt to America's veterans. So to all VA employees that are here today, I thank you for your service of those that have served our country. And for those that have faithfully served and those that are serving today in our military, we thank you.
Thank you very much, David. And now the Honorable Robert J. McGarvey, Chairman of the Memorial and Veterans Day Committee and my boss.
Yeah, right. It's, well, welcome to the Rancho Cordova Veterans Day celebration. Thank you for coming. You know, there are memorials for World War I and World War II and Korea and Vietnam and Gulf War and Iraq, and it goes on, but they're so wonderful and they're done. You can go back to Washington, D.C. and say many, but there are some in Sacramento. There's some here in Rancho Cordova, and we're going to be building some also. But in 2012, at one of those memorials, Vietnam Wall, as a matter of fact, the president gave a speech honoring the Vietnam War veterans. He was honoring all veterans. He used part of his speech, and it goes, it was toward the end of the day, and many of the tourists and visitors had departed, and there it was, a football helmet, black with white stripes and a wristband. And with them was a handwritten note. It was from a young man who was still in high school. On that handwritten note, he captured the reverence, the bonds between the generations of 100 years of all those wars. The letter began, "Dear Vietnam veterans and all veterans, here are two things from me to you that I think you should have." He explained that it was his helmet from midget football and his wristband from his senior year. It was two pieces of equipment I was allowed to make mistakes, correct them, grow and mature as a person. However, that was my battlefield. You didn't get the chance to do that on your battlefields. Some of you were forced to grow up too fast, and all who died too soon. We do have some things in common, though. We said we both have pride, heart, and determination. You are true heroes, and you'll never be forgotten. That captures the spirit of what this country should embrace, and does, every Veterans Day. Our veterans have fought for many years in many wars over the last 100 years. I hope our young people, when they visit different sites, will be able to see those sites, what they mean to all Americans. When they do that, then in that moment of understanding and of gratitude and of grace, then our veterans' legacy will truly endure. Thank you, all veterans. And I'm glad you're here to help us celebrate Veterans Day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we'll have another song. It's called Freedom. And then it's the band again.
Depicting the themes of war, this is a heartfelt selection composed by Michael W. Smith, who is a 3-time Grammy Award winner, an American Music Award recipient, and has earned 45 Dove Awards. The music is momentous, with marching drums and the undeniable feeling of triumph stamped throughout the tune. Contemplate the words you have heard this morning and reflect on this time of remembrance and thankfulness for those who have and continue to fight for our freedom.
Now we'll get into introductions. The Honorable Dr. Ami Berra, is he here? Son of a gun. How are you, sir? No, the reason I said that, he has so many places to go that sometimes it's hard to catch up with him. And he's here. That's good. Really. The Honorable Jim Nielsen, California State Senate, 4th District. Sir, it's a pleasure. Thank you. I got to put my cheaters on because I got a late one here and he's got a small card. This is Joe Debs, Deputy District Director for Dr. Richard Pan, Senator from the 6th District, California Legislature. Is he here? Where's he at? Okay. Lindsay Sen, Deputy Secretary for Women's Veterans Affairs, California Department of Veterans. Where's she at? Glad to have you. Now, from the city of Rancho Cordova, Vice Mayor Linda Budge. Council Member Robert J. McGarvey. Council Member David Sander. And next I have Chris Clark, Board Member, Folsom Cordova Unified School District. Where's Chris? They get you farther and farther away every time, don't they? That school district, you know. Huh. And now, Cyrus Edbar. Where is he at? I got it right. Thank you. City Manager, City of Rancho Cordova. I've blown that one for a number of years. Okay, and Charles Pittman, Chief of Police of Rancho Cordova. There's a guy you gotta know. Where's he at? Oh, there he is, back there. Gary Strong, CEO of Capital Region of the American Red Cross. Gary. And Rick Sloan, Park and Recreation Director. Where's Rick? Oh, right there. You sneak in all the time and you never reply. That's all right. So then I got to add. All right. And Colonel Joseph P. Glickenhaus. Is that right, sir? Stand up and take a bow. You can't get out of this stuff. Have I missed any digging series? Thank goodness. I'm going to take a little liberty here because this will be the first time I did. A couple people in the audience that I think to me, are special. And one is retired Master Sergeant Kelly Hughes and his wife Elizabeth. Where you at? Stand up. There you go. He was with the 168th. And if you see him now, he was clean shaven years ago. Now he's got one of those Mickey Mouse beards plus an earring, and I haven't figured all this out. But he's a great guy. And Captain Soto, where's she at? Come on. Did I say it right? There she is. She's a nurse, World War II. We had her up when we did the Nisei, the Japanese 100 and 142nd. Thank you, dear, for being here. Appreciate it. Now, will all veterans rise? Don't be ashamed or bad. Here we go, boy. We've got to go in here today. Hold it up. Just hold it. Everybody's ahead of me on the applause. First of all, I'd like to salute you and thank you for your service to your country, and God bless each and every one of you. Now you can applaud. Thank you. Now you're probably wondering why we go through the drill of each one of the wars, but years ago I made the error of going into the various services first, and we have a lot of veterans that served in between the wars, so they were a little pushed out of shape. I don't blame them. A veteran's a veteran, if you spend a year or a month or whatever, as long as you got that honorable discharge. All right, we got anybody from World War II? Anybody from World War II? Gosh, I can't be the last man. Oh, there he is. Right. I got another one over here. Good. I got too close that time. Korea. Korea vets. I don't know why you guys are all bashful. Vietnam. All right. Panama, Grenada, Somalia, and Bosnia. I know the colonel's in Bosnia, so that takes care of it. Over here. Great. Lebanon. Anybody from Lebanon? Very good. Good. Now the women veterans. I never forget them because I'd be in trouble if I did. There's one over here, Air Force, I know. There's another one back there. There we go. Good. Now the next one I got is World War II, Korea and Vietnam, and I don't know, we got anybody out there from all three? Forget me. All right. I guess I'm the only one. Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and Iraq. Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and Iraq. There we go. How about Afghanistan? I know we got some of them here. How about any POWs? We have any POWs? Generally, they sneak in once in a while. We've had one or two over the years, but none today. Also, it is my honor to introduce three members from the Royal Canadian Air Force who are stationed at Beale Air Force Base, and I'm probably going to blow the names on this one. Captain Sean Arbuckle, that's easy. Where's he at, Captain? There's him, right over here. Why don't you keep standing? I might as well get you all up. Sergeant Billy Burkarashi. I blew that one. I can see that now. And Master Corporal Sylvan Sly Bedoran. Thank you very much, General, for being here, and we thank you for being here. Okay, here we go. As the band plays your service songs, the Marines, don't worry about it. We've got you included.
We'd now like to honor all those who have served with pride of the United States Armed Forces. So would you please stand if you are able when you hear your song as the band performs Armed Forces Pride of America. The United States Army. The United States Marines.
Where you at? I don't see too many stand. Oh, there they are. We got a couple.
United States Navy. United States Coast Guard. The United States Air Force.
My wife's real happy. Thank you, Tom. Let's give him a big hand. And now I'll turn it over to Rick Swinford, who will continue the march from here for a little while. Go ahead, Rick.
Thank you, Bob. We're going to start with the ceremonial placing of the wreaths, honoring veterans. Entering from my left, your right, John Myers, President, and Geraldo Saucedo, Vice President and Director, Sacramento County Navy Council, Navy League of the United States. And on my left, Philip Thulander, President, National Sojourners, Tal Norwood, Commander, Sacramento Chapter 133, and Heroes of 76. Thank you, gentlemen. We will now do our recognition of newly placed bricks. Reading off the names of our donors and our brick recipients is Dr. Don Erkenbrock, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Army, retired, and Associate Director, Sacramento Valley VA, Northern California Healthcare System.
Well, good morning. Today marks a very special anniversary for me. In addition to it being Veterans Day, 30 years ago today, November the 11th, 1987, I started active duty service that spanned over 2 decades. And I am honored to be here today with you to read the names of our bricks. The Memorial Plaza began with a vision by local veterans who dreamed of a quiet place on this campus to reflect on the gift of the great men and women who served our military. In 2001, a group of local veterans, one of them being Mr. Joe Fricola, a World War II veteran, raised more than $400,000 in donations and dedicated more than 18,000 hours in making this dream come true. The theme of the plaza is coming home, as symbolized by the bronze statue of a medic returning home to his young daughter on his shoulders. The plaza was designed to hold 8,000 bricks. Since the dedication of the Memorial Plaza on May the 25th of 2006, a total of 2,328 bricks have been placed in honor of those who served. Each Memorial Day and Veterans Day, bricks will continue to be placed and veterans will be recognized and honored until the plaza is full. Due to the current construction project was expanding our entrance to the hospital, the bricks purchased will honor the veterans will be placed in front of the stage here today and will then be relocated to their proper place in front of the statue. As I read the names of the veterans being honored, a representative of the family will be escorted to the foot of the stage to place a flower on the brick, which will be placed in the plaza during the coming week. As each of you depart the brick, you will be given a lanyard with tag to indicate the inscription on the brick. We thank all those who have served and continue to serve. The first name on the brick, Barbara Ballot. Rachel Crosby. Frank David. Gilbert Galindo. Donald Garton. Jensen G. Harold Stewart Gluckman. Jerry Hannigan. Richard Hayes. Wayne Hess. Howard Landon. Don Saba. Jay Skinner. Carrie Steele. T. Van Aersdale. And that concludes the reading of the names.
Thank you, Dr. Erkenbrock. I'd also like to thank the Cordova High School United States Air Force Junior ROTC for escorting our folks. We're going to start with our guest speakers. The first today will be the Honorable Dr. Ami Bera, U.S. Congress, California 7th District.
Well, Veterans Day is always one of our most solemn days, and it's always one of our most special days because it is a day where we stop, take pause, and think about those special men and women who represent the best of America. You know, as we start this 100-year celebration of our veterans, let's reflect. I know we have a few World War II veterans here, and that was a generation that answered the call to duty and saved the world. And that's not an exaggeration. Those men and women that stepped up in World War II did save the world, and we thank you for that. And what they did was they set a foundation of American leadership for the last 70 years. If you think about the post-war world that they set in motion, they set a foundation of America leading with its values, with the values of freedom, the values of democracy, and they created a safer, more peaceful world. The veterans that answered the call in Korea to go to a country that many of them had no idea was there, to protect those folks. To this day, the Korean people say thank you every day. They honor the Americans, and we honor all of you. To the veterans of the Vietnam War, welcome home. Thank you for your service, and thank you for answering that call to duty. To the veterans of Desert Storm and Afghanistan and Iraq, you're out there fighting and protecting us and fighting against the new threat to keep our peace, to protect our freedoms. And to the men and women every day, I was in Korea a few weeks ago meeting with General Brooks, who, by the way, is a Jesuit high school grad, who is in charge of keeping the peace and the forces in Korea. To all of those veterans, when I met those young men and women that are on the front line, you can be as proud as I am of how they represent the values of our country, who we are as Americans. They continue in that tradition, and we should keep them in our thoughts and prayers every day. The ones that are out there fighting our foes and adversaries in Afghanistan, in Iraq, the tragic loss of 4 heroes in Africa. We know they're out there protecting the world and promoting peace, freedom, democracy every day. The reason why Veterans Day is so special is because it forces us to stop and think about what the men and women did. They served our country. And America, make no mistake, is a great nation. It's a great nation because of the values that we believe in. Those values of freedom, of opportunity, of dignity and respect, not just for Americans, because we are trying to spread those values and protect those for people that we don't even know around the world. But we understand what binds us together. So on this Veterans Day, to all of the men and women who have served and protected and promoted the American spirit around the world, on behalf of a grateful nation, God bless all of you. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
And now the Honorable Jim Nielsen, California State Senate, 4th District.
Ladies and gentlemen, truly is a wonderful day to celebrate our soldiers, sailors, our airmen all over the world, and all those who served before them. Very special theme today, tracing 100 years from the Meuse-Argonne forest through the Ardennes forest, through the cold of Korea, Vietnam, all of their Southeast Asian wars, and now in the Near East, where our soldiers protect our precious freedom. Too many of us take that freedom for granted every day. Too many view that freedom as an entitlement. Well, it's an obligation of all of us to serve. When I think of that continuum from the Meuse-Argonne to the Ardennes to now in Afghanistan, I think of my very good friend, actually was like a brother to me. His name was Bob Kirstein. He was a regional ranger for CAL FIRE for his whole career after he got back from the military. He led the firefight on some of the most calamitous fires in California history and served as the longest tenured president of the California Board of Forestry. Early this year, Bob was meeting his last days. As I sat with his family in that hospital room, holding his hands, telling him the stories of the farm, which was very dear to him, the doctor came in. And it was very disappointing. This doctor, instead of having respect, bedside manners, comes into the room and looks at Bob and says, "Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this?" What a way for a doctor to address a dying man. Well, that doctor fortunately exited the room, and I was holding Bob's hand. And he turned to me and he said, "Jim, how am I going to deal with this?" I said, "Bob, you're going to deal with it just like you did fighting in the Argonne forest. And you're going to deal with it, the Ardennes, and at the Bridge of Remagen." He was also at the Bridge of Remagen, won the Gold Star and the Silver Star in that battle. But I said, "Bob, there's a difference this time. Now, then, Bob, you did not have your loving family surrounding you. We're here now, and we love you." Reminded of my own dad, who was Army Air Corps and stationed in Belgium, France, and England. When Dad passed away, he never talked like most World War II soldiers, sailors, airmen, never talked much about their years in service. But he did write a note to his mother every single day. There was a big box of those accumulated, and I was reading through them. And this one note, Gmails they were called, said, "What we've all been waiting for is happening. I think it's going well. How do the folks back home feel?" Now, all of those things were censored. So he could only write about how's the cow, did she have her calf, and such innocuous things as that, not about him. But I looked, and I said, "That's interesting. What was he talking about?" And I looked at the date. Folks, that was D-Day. And he was launching the planes from England, flying in to France on D-Day, to Normandy. Launching those who went in and taking the toll of those that did not come back. Such stories are moving. Each of these are moving stories unto themselves. I ask you to accept a challenge this day. In America, and it has happened before, there are those who are disparaging our flag, our pledge, our national anthem, regularly. It has even happened in the state legislature where I serve, where a couple of members 2 days in a row left under God out of the Pledge of the Allegiance. We need to stand up, all of us, and say no to that. Thousands of our soldiers died simply to pick that flag up so it did not touch the ground. That's what they felt about our flag. Renew your spirit of patriotism. That is a good thing, for we are a great nation. Veterans and all veterans who have passed. God accept you. God bless you. God bless the USA.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. We'll now hear from Lindsay Sin, Deputy for Women's Veterans, California, Department of Veterans Affairs.
Well, good morning. On behalf of the state of California, I want to say happy Veterans Day. It is my absolute pleasure to be here. It's my pleasure to be here officially to read you the proclamation issued from Governor Brown, but also personally, as I call Rancho Cordova my hometown. In fact, I graduated from Cordova High School in 1997. Go Lancers! And later that year, in December of 1997, I enlisted in the United States Navy, directly from the Sacramento VA Center. So it's a great honor to be here today. When I came home 8 years later, this Sacramento VA Medical Center became my medical center, and I was proud to call this my VA as well. So it's a real pleasure to be here. On behalf of the state of California and on behalf of my secretary, Dr. Vito Imbassiani, and our agency, the California Department of Veterans Affairs, we're here to say thank you so much to all of our veterans for the services and sacrifices that they have made, as well as the sacrifices that their families have made. We consider it an absolutely sacred mission every day to go to work so that we can help serve our veterans and their families for the state of California. And so on behalf of Governor Brown and Dr. Imbassiani, I'd like to read this year's proclamation for California in honor of Veterans Day. Veterans Day began as Armistice Day, a holiday commemorating the end of World War I on November 11th, 1918. All too soon, it became clear that this had not been the war to end all wars, as some optimists had claimed. After a second global conflict that dwarfed the first in its magnitude of destruction, countries around the world began changing their observance to encompass all conflicts and honor all those who served. Our own Veterans Day was established as a national holiday by congressional resolution and presidential proclamation in 1954. Today, nearly 2 million veterans live in California. Among them are men and women who served in World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Persian Gulf War, and our recent wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as various smaller engagements and peacetime deployments. As we remember these brave Americans today, we should consider not only their valor and suffering in the service of our country, but also the challenges they face upon returning home. While the vast majority of veterans return to civilian life easily, many suffer from high rates of disability, poverty, unemployment, and homelessness. We cannot glibly claim to honor our heroes while leaving them to suffer from social and economic ills. This Veterans Day, let us welcome all returning veterans with open arms, and as President Eisenhower wrote in his 1954 proclamation, let us consecrate ourselves to the task of promoting and enduring peace so that their efforts will not have been in vain. Now therefore, I, Edmund G. Brown Jr., Governor of the State of California, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2017 as Veterans Day. And it's my honor to present this proclamation to this committee. Congratulations on a successful event and happy Veterans Day.
Thank you, Lindsay. We're now going to hear a Cohan salute from our band.
George M. Cohan began his career as a child performing with his parents and sister in a vaudeville act known as The Four Cohans. Beginning with Little Johnny Jones in 1904, he wrote, composed, produced, and appeared in more than 36 Broadway musicals. Cohan published more than 300 songs during his lifetime, including the standards Over There, Give My Regards to Broadway, The Yankee Doodle Boy, and You're a Grand Old Flag. As a composer, he was one of the early members of ASCAP. He displayed remarkable theatrical longevity, appearing in films until the 1930s, and continuing to perform as a headline artist until 1940. Known in the decade before World War I as the man who owned Broadway, he is considered the father of American musical comedy. His life and music were depicted in the Academy Award-winning film Yankee Doodle Dandy in 1942 and the 1968 musical George M. A statue of Cohan in Times Square in New York City commemorates his contributions to American musical theater. We hope you all enjoy a Cohan salute.
Thank you. I'm going to now read the bio and introduce our keynote speaker today. Colonel Joseph P. Gleichenhaus is the son of a soldier. Commissioned into the Field Artillery upon graduation from the University of San Francisco in 1990, his first assignment was to the 82nd Airborne Division, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. After which he went to the demilitarized zone in with the 1st 506th Infantry, 2nd Infantry Division. Returning from Korea, the colonel then served in the 3rd Infantry Division in Fort Stewart, Georgia, during which time he deployed to Bosnia for 7 months. Following Air Force Command and General Staff College in 2002, the colonel took his family to Hawaii, serving in the 25th Infantry Division. During this assignment, he deployed 15 months to Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. After some time in Washington, D.C., the colonel assumed battalion command in Hawaii, and he deployed another 15 months to Iraq during the surge operation in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. 2009, the colonel went back to Washington, D.C., serving as a special assistant to the Chief of Staff of the United States Army. After which, he went to after the Army War College in 2012, he served with the I Corps Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington State. 2013, the colonel assumed command of the 3rd Battlefield Coordination Detachment, Korea, at Osan Air Base, Republic of Korea. In 2015, the colonel remained in Korea, serving as the Future Operation Planner, Crisis Action Planner for U.S. Forces Korea Combined Force Command and the United Nations Command in Seoul. His awards and decorations include the Defense Superior Service Medal, Legion of Merit, 2 bronze medals, 5 awards of the Meritorious Service Medal, Joint Service Commendation Medal, 5 medal accommodations, 4 Army Achievement Medals, and many more. In addition, he has earned the Combat Action Badge, Ranger Tab, Master Parachutist Badge, and Air Assault Badge. In 2017, the colonel and his family received orders to here, Sacramento, California, and he serves as the State Command Inspector General. He is married to Lori, and they have 2 children, David Raymond and Noah Matthew. I'd like to introduce Colonel Gleichenhaus.
Thanks very much, and we are very happy to be here in California. We came here from Korea, 4.5 years. I'll talk about it a little bit later as well. But had they told us we were going anywhere else, I think we'd still be in Korea. So we're very happy to be here. This is obviously not Bob Burns' first rodeo, nor Rancho Cordova. A spectacular setup, and I think his keynote for today, with our great weather, nice and cool, it's been a relief from some of the heat we've had. The key might be to keep it very short, and I'll try to do that. So for our state and city leadership, I'm just going to say welcome. Thanks very much for having me. And I do want to thank a great non-commissioned officer, Sergeant First Class Sally Sablon. I'll recognize her for inviting me out here today. I've been nothing but impressed and surprised, and I'm not sure why I should be surprised, to what I've seen in California and your service members here, and the amount of veterans that I've seen and support that I've seen locally here at Rancho Cordova for this event today on Veterans Day. Also, Bob, I don't know if it's going to be your last. I know you made mention of potentially going into retirement, but I'd say he definitely has all the energy, and I hope to arrive at that place one day with that kind of energy for a man that's had that much service. Please. And I let him off the hook, and I don't know if I have an answer, but I'll find an answer about the flag. That's what the Inspector General does. We are discipline and standards. I did get a call, and I learned as a second lieutenant, you got great non-commissioned officers that always keep you on the right path. So I'll talk to mine when I get home, and we'll have it right for next year. Many Americans mistakenly believe that Veterans Day is the day America sets aside to honor military personnel who have died in battle. You're a very educated crowd, it seems to be today, and we know that that's not true. That's Memorial Day. Veterans Day, on the other hand, honors all Americans, veteran Americans, both living and dead. And it's largely intended to thank the living, which you got a lot of very alive veterans out here today. And I do thank you for your presence. And it was commemorated, as mentioned, for the ending of the Great War, World War I, which was the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, and it was initially known as Armistice Day. And internationally, it is still recognized, not just here in America, as the ending of that war, and it has various names. So I want to go a little bit with who we are. You kind of recognized them and you stood up, but it is every service. So I think in one of the speeches we left out the Marines, but it is Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, and our Coast Guard brothers, officer enlisted, draftees, and volunteers. It's all who have served. And it's very appropriately noted by Lieutenant Colonel Retired Burns, those who were honorably dismissed. But if you have served, whether you volunteered or not, then we thank you for your service. And if you didn't know, since 1973, today, our military is in all 100% voluntary force. So those service members serving on active duty or in our Reserve and National Guard components, they are 100% volunteers. And I thank you all for that. And at this time, I'd actually like to ask one more time, because you've been sitting for a while, so I'll have you get up and get down a couple times. But if all the veterans would please, if you're able, rise one more time. And I'd like to have a nice round of applause one more time. All right. While not officially part of Veterans Day, there's another group that we should actually thank. So that's the families of all those veterans. Mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, spouses, husbands, wives, kids. Because they too have sacrificed, and I can assure you for the amount of time that all these veterans have been deployed, whether you went to a combat zone or not, I can tell you the hours that they work and the commitment that they got to have the support of the families at home. So I'd like to give a round of applause, please, to all the families that are here as well. All right, so I followed a lot of great speakers with a lot of great comments, but I'm going to put a little bit in perspective as to the numbers. So as of Thursday, April 20th, 2017, according to Google and estimates, the population of the United States is 326,002,603. So add a couple hundred for the last couple months. 330 million. 330 million. Total serving today on active duties, 1.3 million. And in our Guard and Reserves is another 800,000. So if you do the math, and I was told never to do math in public, but that is less than 1% of our American population serves either active in our reserve component today. So that's pretty impressive. I heard some commentary about veterans. Well, let's put it into California. In California, you have 40 million, approximately 40 million Californians today of which in active duty about 170,000 and about 24,000 in your Guard and Reserve. Total, that's less than 200,000 still of Californians, active, reserve, or Guard. That's less than 0.5% who serve in the military. Veterans, approximately 22 million. I heard a mention from a couple of our leadership from our Veterans Associations. Appreciate you being here as well. But 22 million, that's less than 10%. Still a pretty good number, 22 million, but less than 10% of our American population is veterans, again, which we're here to recognize today and thank for their service. There's a lot more service to become. And to be fair, at some time I'll have to add in estimates for the families, because you cannot underestimate the sacrifice that is made from the families for those veterans who are serving all the time. But what I like to say is the faces change, but the colors remain the same. And this year of a theme of 100 years are gone to Afghanistan, we are very busy today. I've been since Korea in California for 3 months. Those 4.5 years in Korea, we're pretty busy over there, and it's been ramping up ever since. You've seen it all in the news. The motto there is ready to fight tonight, or fight tonight. General Brooks, a good friend of mine as well, local Sacramento guy. He reminded me all the time as I was headed here. Our families are there too. There's about 12,000 military or DOD, Department of Defense, families living in Korea right now. But other than that, there's 500,000 American citizens, or third country nationals as we call them, that live in Korea as well. And twice a year, the DOD civilians, because we can't make the true civilians that are living in Korea do it, although we'd like to, twice a year, they get their stuff, everything they can carry, what they're directed, and they practice a non-combatant evacuation operation to come back. And today, I'm thankful to see all the efforts that are here in California, because this is where they may end up. So I'm more confident even today to see the efforts and what's here, knowing that those families are in harm's way as well. That is also some service. For your California Military Department, it's an Army and an Air Force and a small contingent of Navy. I talked to a couple of you Marines. We'll see about that. I'm going to talk to the TAG, see if we can't get a couple Marines. For every one, I guess it's worth about 10 soldiers, some would say. It's all good. Your California Military Department, 24,000 strong. They have been flying combat missions in Afghanistan with the remotely piloted aircraft, RPAs, or the drone aircraft. They're doing that right now, and they've been doing it for some years. The 40th Infantry Division out of Los Alamitos down near Los Angeles, or in Los Angeles, is in Afghanistan right now. I don't know if you knew that. And they'll have a rotation that some of them will come back and some more will go after the turn of the year, early in 2013. You have an infantry brigade that's going to go down range to Afghanistan next year as well, and a special operations detachment that's also deploying at the turn of the year. You have some soldiers that are supporting exercises in Germany and France right now. You have service members in the Ukraine right now training Ukraine military. They got a real fight as well with the Russians on the other side that may be our friends, maybe not. You can ask the Ukrainians. You have soldiers in Nigeria. You deployed to Texas, to Florida, to Savannah, Georgia, to Puerto Rico for all the hurricanes that struck those states. Soldiers and airmen deployed there from very critical roles to support the relief efforts there. Whether you knew it or not, they did. And here in California, historic devastation with the fires that you just had, both in Northern California and Southern California. And you had soldiers and airmen deployed from Los Angeles up to the Napa-Sonoma County. They remained and supported in Los Angeles area to all those fires. Airmen and soldiers flying reconnaissance. And there's numerous other missions that we call defense support to civil authorities that your 24,000 Californians, National Guard, are doing every single day right here in California. It's quite impressive. That reserve and National Guard is not the strategic reserve that we used to have in the old days. They are now an operational reserve, as I just mentioned, all those things that they're doing right now in support of the interagencies. And I do truly thank the police department, CAL FIRE, all the emergency services for accepting those service members that come out there. Truly impressive interagency, and it's impressive to be here in California. And I thank the civilian leadership for embracing all the components, and I thank the components for embracing the military as well. So, a couple times it's been mentioned, 11th hour, 11th day, 11th month, 1918, that round was fired. It was Battery E of the 2nd Battalion, 11th Field Artillery Regiment. The gun was known as Calamity Jane. That gun, it still exists today. It's not the same gun, it's slightly different, but Calamity Jane is labeled on a howitzer, a cannon tube, and I know this because I deployed it to Iraq, and I watched it deploy after me to Afghanistan. I was hoping my Pizzo, my brother, that took command from me, was able to fire it on the 11th day of the 11th month of 2011 in Afghanistan to put an end to that one, but was not the case, but that's okay. So Calamity Jane, 100 years from Argonne, I know I had it in Iraq, and it's still out there fighting today. I'd say for those who have not served in the military, but they say thanks to us all the time. And some of the veterans here know that today is not the same as other periods of time when service members came to home to not such a gracious population. So for those who thank us, I say thank you for your support. We all volunteered, so we do it for you. And know that there are a lot of things you can do to serve the country without being in the military. The instruments of power, if I will for just a second, are diplomatic, information, military, and economic. A little lesson if you didn't know. Those are the instruments of power our nation uses to participate in the global activities. Well, nobody prays for peace more than a service member, right? You guys send us. And if you send us, there are more veterans that are going to come. Well, less veterans have died from the recent wars than the older wars, because of the things that have been provided by those who may not have served. But I know 95% is the survivability rate in Iraq and Afghanistan. And why is that? It's because of the body armor and the protection that civilians have given and provided to those inventors who invented it. And they make it lighter for us every day. The medical care that we arrive to and then transport, all of those things sometimes are not those serving, but are providing a service to support the betterment of our country so we all can arrive where we want to be. And that's here, living today free in California. So, if you have not served in the military, thank you very much for your support. And for those who are not, or who are veterans that did not always remember that to be the case, I'm sorry for that, but I thank you especially for your service. And as we know, the military service is not a job. It's a lifestyle. It's a profession of arms based on values, each of its service with their own, but forged together on the battlefields across the world. It's based on trust. And I'll assure all of you, the sailor, the soldier, the airman, the Marines, we have our jokes, and Coast Guardsmen, we have our jokes about each other's culture, but it is closer today than it's ever been amongst the services. And never forget, there are a significant number of civilians that are on our battlefield and that have lost their lives in support of us, and we thank them for that as well. They too ought to be considered veterans. So once again, I thank you all for your service who are here, the veterans. Whether you went downrange or remained here at home, whether you saw combat action or not, you served. You volunteered or you honorably served, and you provided a service to our nation and our way of life. And we did what we were asked. You and your family sacrificed. I'm going to go through the list, and if you got it in you, Semper Paratus, because I know there was only one that I saw, a Coast Guardsman. I don't know what the response is, but it means always ready. So I'll go through the rest, and if you got a hoorah or a hooah or an aye, I'd ask you to sound off. So air power, aim high to our Air Force brothers and sisters. See, Bob, I noticed there was a lot of them, but if I started with them, it'd get everybody else, because it only takes like 2 Marines to get to the rest of us. Semper Fi to our Marine Corps. Anchors away to all our sailors. And Army Strong. Hoorah to all our soldiers. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for coming. I thank you very much to being in California and this Veterans Day. God bless you, and God bless America and California. Bob, thanks so much.
Thank you, Colonel G. Okay, I'm back. As we close out today's event saluting Aragon to Afghanistan, let us not forget it is the veteran, your friend, neighbor, and family who brings the world to our home from where they are serving or served rather, or are serving. It becomes personal. Too many veterans from our community continue to serve. Representative one of them is Colonel Mark Johnson from our Rancho Cordova community. His grandfather was at Aragon. His grandfather served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Mark's mother and father served in Vietnam, and at this time, Russ and Sandy, where are you at? Please stand up. It's quite a story. Russ is in the band, and where's Sandy? There you go. Thank you very much. Today, Mark is deployed to Afghanistan as commander of the 3rd Combat Aviation Brigade, 3rd Infantry Division. The 3rd Infantry Division has been in every conflict from Aragon to Afghanistan. To salute them and all who are serving through special arrangements with the 3rd Infantry Division Band are deployed forward, and Mr. Tom Seaton of the Rancho Cordova City Band. They will present the 3rd Infantry Division song. Now, they claim this is their song, but I tell you, I marched to this thing, and I think it belongs to the Army, too. All right, get with it. Dog-faced soldier.
Ladies and gentlemen, the band would now like to salute and thank our hometown hero and veteran, our buddy, Mr. Bob Burns.
Thank you very much. Wow. Now, as your name is called, this is where we get the committee up. We meet every month, 12 months out of the year to get this thing together. So if I may, and please stand and remain standing until I call everybody's name. Councilman Robert J. McGarvey. He's our chairman. Shelley Blanchard, Cordova Community Council. Where's Shelley? She disappeared? Oh. All right. Anyway, she did a beautiful job setting this up, and your bunting and the flags and everything are perfect. Thank you. Maria Becksteger, she's also Cordova Community Council. Believe it or not, she's on vacation. Ashley Downtown, City of Rancho Cordova. You got the camera today, huh, kid? Maria Alms, Chief Volunteer Services, the VA. Where's Maria? Oh, normally she's hiding. Rick Swinford, U.S. Navy, veteran. Vernon Winthrop, PFW Post 10125. There's Vernon. Johanna Foster Downs, Republic Services. Where are you at, Johanna? I know. Where? Oh, you snuck to the back, huh? All right. They do a great job, too. She's been up with us for a long time. And, of course, yours truly, Bob Burns, and that's your committee. Thank you very much. And now, I know you're getting a little tired, and again, my apologies, David. I'm supposed to keep this to a certain time, but it never works out, never in a million years. So at this time, Casey Young, bagpiper, I hope he's ready. He's probably been standing in the wings for a year. Oh, is he over there? Aha, almost caught you asleep, huh? Amazing Grace. Go ahead, Case. Thank you, Casey. Let's give him a big hand. Thank you for your service too, buddy. Thank you. Benediction. Father, Reverend Father Chuck Kelly, St. John Vianney's Parish. Father.
Well, Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for your blessings. We ask that you abundantly bless those who have served our country and are serving our country. May they gain earthly and heavenly blessings from their unselfish love of our country. Lord, we remember those who are currently serving and ask that you provide them with your protection, your strength, and your peace. We ask that you would abundantly provide for all their needs. And we ask that you would protect their families from hurt and harm. May each of our veterans feel honored, not just today, but every day. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. God bless.
Everybody going to stand, please. Retire to colors.
Calling on. Attention.
Drum roll.
Forward, march. Ready? Hold. Left face. 3, color. Harry, color. Left face. Forward, march.
Let's give these young people a great big hand. They did a great job today. And believe it or not, Tom, we will not forget Echo Taps this year. You're on. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors, and then we'll have one more and we'll be on the road. The VA Northern California healthcare system in the city of Rancho Cordova for all they have done to make this ceremony possible. Alpha Graphics, Rancho Cordova for their terrific programs and posters. The Cordova Community Council, Cordova High School, U.S. Air Force Junior ROTC, Casey Young Bagpiper, Elite Party Rentals, National Sojourners Incorporated, Sacramento Chapter 133 and Heroes of 76, Rancho Cordova Boy Scout Troop numbers 363 and Copac 28, Jerry Oviso from Foresta Flowers, and they're down here in front. She does a nice job providing the carnations and flowers. A very special thanks to these guys who gave me a little surprise today. To the Rancho Cordova River City Concert Band for their great music they have provided. Also thanks to two of its members, Tom Seaton and Larry Womack. And I'd like to give them another hand because they're great. I don't believe there's anywhere that I know of that they got a 62-piece band at one of these ceremonies, and they do a nice job. Republic Services, Sacramento Consul Navy League of the United States, the VFW post number 10125, the American Red Cross Capital Region, American Legion, Leonard Yates post 709, all the volunteers who assisted with logistics and setup, and Telesound, who did a great job, I think, on his sound system, and the Veterans Benefit Administration. And if I may, I'd like to just introduce my wife. She's back there, and thank her for all these years. Thank you, hon, Beverly. I generally don't do that, but I thought it'd be nice today. So we're going to close this thing with God Bless America. You're on again, Tom. Everybody. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, through the ocean, wide to fall. God bless America, my own Oh, we're going again. Stand beside her, guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairie, to the ocean, right with all. God bless America, my own sweet home. God bless America, my own sweet Also, the big guy here behind me, let's give him a big hand. He did a great job. Thank you all for coming out today. God bless the United States of America, and have a safe journey home, and thank you for everything. Come on.